These are some of the legal issues the Try Guys can get into because of the relationship between Ned Fulmer and Alex Herring. Hi, my name is Adam Juratovac, and I'm a California employment lawyer, and a lot of my clients are survivors of sexual harassment or sexual assault. So just like everyone else, I saw the Reddit threads, I saw the TikToks that were going viral about this relationship between coworkers. Or in this situation, it's one of the Try Guys, an associate producer. So after I watched all the videos, all the TikToks, I actually watched the Try Guys explanation video explaining what happened. So here I am to give you my opinion. This is not legal advice, but to give you my opinion on the claims that Alex Herring may have against the Try Guys and Ned Fulmer. Well, first things first, in the state of California, you have the right that your workplace be free from sexual harassment and sexual discrimination. Now, in the state of California, there's two different types of sexual harassment: quid pro quo and hostile work environment. Quid pro quo sexual harassment occurs when your employer, your boss, says, if you have sex with me, I will give you this promotion, or I will give you this benefit of work. And in the contrary, if you don't have relations with me, you won't get these benefits of the job employment. The second type of sex harassment that can occur is what people normally call hostile work environment. So the second type of unlawful sexual harassment is if that sexual harassment conduct is either severe or pervasive. Now, when I say severe, I mean there has to be a touching, there has to be one big moment that is enough to trigger an unlawful act. So just imagine if someone touches one of the female's 3 private areas. That's severe. Or imagine if an individual touches a man's 2 private areas. That's also severe. The second type is if the conduct is pervasive. So what pervasive means is there's not one individual unique act that triggers an unlawful incident, but it's a series of 5, 10, 15 off-colored comments, sexually harassing moments, or situations where there's sex discrimination in the workplace. That's when there could be an unlawful act enough to start a lawsuit. Now, in this situation between Ned Fulmer and Alex Herring, we don't know 100% of what happened because everyone has not made a statement yet. And when I say everyone hasn't made a statement, I mean no one's been able to be interviewed up front saying, tell me the truth, the whole truth in every single situation that happened. Because one thing that people can allege is that Ned Fulmer and Alex Herring had a consensual relationship. Now, if you have a consensual relationship at work, it really depends on what your corporate policies are. However, I highly recommend you not having a consensual relationship with another coworker. And to quote Chunky's Dead song from TikTok, don't F your coworkers. So the situation we have here, at least how I see it from the outside, is you have one of the owners of a company who is then having a sexual relationship with one of the associate producers or one of the people that he's in charge of managing. Now, anytime you have a sexual relationship between a subordinate and a manager, that subordinate does not need to complain to management or the rest of the managers about being sexually harassed. And the reason being is a lot of the times, if your manager is sexually harassing you, you can't complain to your manager because that's the person who's sexually harassing you. And if you complain to HR, if you complain to other management, then you're in fear of being retaliated against or being fired for making that complaint. So in the state of California, we have a little, solution for that. If your manager is the person who's sexually harassing you, if your manager is the person who's sexually assaulting you, then you don't need to make a complaint to the company. Because it's your manager, that is a person you should have reported to. So if they're the person who's doing the harassment, the employer, the company, has imputed knowledge that that's occurring because one of the managers is doing it. So the reason that this could bring a lot of liability to the Try Guys is because, one, Alex Fulmer, she has a couple claims, in my opinion. We don't know what was occurring in that relationship. We won't know what was occurring in that relationship until after we get more facts. We don't know if Ned was saying to Alex, hey, we'll keep you on to this show if you have relationships with me. We don't know if Alex received any preferential treatment for having those relationships. We don't know if she was the person who was pursuing Ned. We don't know any of those facts and any of that information. But one thing we do know is you have a manager having an inappropriate, according to the Try Guys, relationship with Alex, their associate producer. And that's not good. Anytime you have a manager with an employee getting together, that's a recipe for disaster, to be honest. Because one thing that could always occur is the person who's managing that individual, they are in an uneven bargaining power. They have a disparity of power over that coworker who is in a lower position than them. So just imagine if you're that associate producer and you want to break up with one of the owners. You won't feel like you have the power to break up with that owner, because if you do, that owner can terminate you and find a various amount of reasons to terminate you. And that's why it's really important, if you're being sexually harassed by an employer or a manager or any of your coworkers, to complain about that sexual harassment in writing to HR. You need to write a letter. You need to send a text message, because a lot of the times verbal complaints, they're swept under the rug. And when I say swept under the rug, I mean verbal complaints can sometimes not be written down, not be emailed. And instead that HR person or that manager tries to have a verbal conversation with the other individual. And then if that conduct continues to occur, you're going to say, hey, I complained about this a while ago. Why didn't it get fixed? And you know what? There's going to be no records of you making that complaint because they were trying to handle that internally. So the reason why the Try Guys can get in trouble for this is for sexual harassment, sex discrimination. We don't know if Ned was giving Alex beneficial treatment because of their relationship. But what about the rest of the women on that team? What about the rest of the women who are working in that workplace, who are working their butts off, who are putting in the extra hours, who weren't getting the opportunities that Alex had because they were not sleeping with any of the owners? They were not sleeping with any of their managers. That is also sex discrimination and sex harassment for those workers who are not sleeping with the owners of the company. There's this one case where there's 3 women and one of them was sleeping with the boss. And that woman kept on getting promotions, kept on getting opportunities that the other 2 weren't. So the other 2 women were the ones who actually sued for sex discrimination, not because they were sleeping with the manager, not because they were sleeping with the boss, but because since they weren't sleeping in the boss, they were missing on opportunities that they would have had if they were sleeping on the boss, and they actually won. So this is also just a reminder, if you're in this type of situation, and if you're an employee and you're not getting the benefits of employment from relationships with your manager, you also may have a claim. So raise your hand if you saw the Try Guys explanation video that just came out a couple days ago. I did. I watched this whole video, and I'm not here to judge the video. I'm not going to judge the video, but I am going to tell you about how employers can mitigate their damages whenever they have a claim like this. Now, what the employers typically allege is they had no knowledge that this relationship was occurring. Now, in the beginning of this video, we already talked about what happens if your manager is the person who's sexually harassing you or sexually assaulting you. It doesn't matter if the rest of the company knows, because since it's your manager, the company has imputed knowledge of that harassment. So what that video did, though, is that video allowed everyone to see that the Try Guys do not stand by this type of conduct. They will not allow this type of conduct to occur in their workplace, and they're very apologetic that it even went that far. And then they discussed they were doing an internal review. Now, anytime there's a complaint of sexual harassment or sex discrimination in the workplace, and you report that in writing to your employer should and needs to have a review. They need to interview all the people involved. They need to interview the situation that occurred, and they need to get to the bottom of what really happened. Because if there's a sexual harasser at the workplace, that person needs to get kicked out forever. And that's immediately what the Try Guys did, and that's what they told everyone they were doing. They said that Ned was no longer part of the Try Guys. They said that they had a board vote, and they removed Ned from the Try Guys. I immediately saw it on their YouTube page where they're actually changing all of the thumbnails to push Ned out of there. And I think those are all good actions. I think those are all good steps forward to show that you do not condone that type of behavior. But the fact of the matter is the behavior still occurred. There is still a relationship between an owner and an employee. So what do y'all think about what happened? How long have you been watching the Try Guys, and how surprising was this conduct to you? Let me know in the comments.